Hello friends. What happens when fire meets water? When passion collides with dreaminess? When bold ambition dances with gentle intuition? Welcome to the cosmic tale of Aries Snake and Pisces Horse, two signs from different worlds, trying to write a story together in love, friendship, business, and beyond. On the surface, they may seem like an impossible match. Aries, born of fire, ruled by Mars, is headstrong, intense, and driven. The snake in Chinese astrology adds mystery, sensuality, and cunning. Meanwhile, Pisces, a gentle water sign ruled by Neptune, dreams more than it acts, loves more than it fights. Add the horse, free-spirited, wild, and full of movement, and you have a soul constantly galloping between feelings and fantasies. But don't write them off just yet, because in this whirlwind of differences lies a surprising potential for deep connection, powerful growth, and maybe, just maybe, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of bond. Love, a meeting of fire and mist. From the first electric moment, Aries Snake is captivated, not by grandeur or obvious charm, but by the ineffable softness in Pisces Horse's gaze, the way they drift into a room like music you've never heard before yet instantly recognize. The snake, who normally sizes people up with sharp efficiency, finds themselves momentarily disarmed. Pisces Horse isn't flashy. They don't demand attention. They exist with a quiet, fluid grace that's hard to define, and that's exactly what draws Aries Snake in. For someone who thrives on control and certainty, this dreamy ambiguity is both magnetic and maddening. Pisces Horse, meanwhile, senses the presence of Aries Snake like heat in a room before they even turn to look. There's something unmistakably powerful about them. A sense of internal certainty, of raw, restrained fire. Where others chase the Pisces Horse in chaotic pursuit, Aries Snake merely watches, calculating, confident, certain they'll come closer. And they do, because that stillness, that strength, is everything Pisces Horse craves, especially when their own heart feels like a windstorm they can't always calm. The snake's intensity doesn't scare them, it awakens something ancient in their soul. What makes their connection so uniquely compelling is how they mirror what the other secretly wishes they could be. Aries Snake, beneath the composed armor, yearns for the emotional freedom Pisces Horse seems to live inside. Pisces Horse, under layers of whimsy and emotional fluidity, longs for the grounded, focused energy Aries Snake radiates. It's not just attraction, it's recognition, a cosmic curiosity. They don't quite understand each other, but they feel pulled like magnets anyway. Still, love between them is not without friction. Their core energies clash in subtle yet persistent ways. Aries Snake tends to intellectualize emotions, dissecting feelings with precision, almost like a surgeon, calculating and exact. Pisces Horse, on the other hand, is emotion. They feel like a flood, spontaneous, full body, all-consuming. When they try to express themselves, they often do so in gestures, in silences, in art, in half-sentences that make perfect sense in their head but leave the snake grasping at meaning. This difference can become a chasm. Aries Snake wants directness, clarity, answers. They ask, "Why are you sad?" Pisces Horse pauses, looks at the sky, and replies with, "Do you ever feel like the moon is too close?" And to the snake, that's not an answer, it's a riddle. One they don't have the time to solve. The danger here is mutual frustration. Aries feels emotionally stranded, while Pisces feels emotionally rushed or misunderstood. Timing is another major test. Aries Snake often makes decisions quickly. Love, once recognized, should be pursued with intention. They plan, they calculate, they move. Pisces Horse meanders, not because they don't care, but because they want to feel every emotion, explore every possibility, and honor the mystery of their own heart. Love for them is a river, not a map. If Aries pushes too fast, Pisces may withdraw, not out of rejection, but because they need to breathe, to feel safe before they surrender. Aries Snake may mistake that retreat for indifference, which is where things can begin to spiral. The snake, driven by pride and control, might respond with coldness, with distance, even with silent punishment. But Pisces Horse isn't emotionally armored. They'll sense that shift immediately and internalize it deeply. What was once a source of emotional warmth becomes a cold, confusing wall. Yet when it works, when both are patient, intentional, and willing to stretch beyond their comfort zones, their love becomes transformative. Aries Snake teaches Pisces Horse how to ground their emotions in action, how to create stability without losing magic. Pisces Horse teaches Aries Snake to slow down, to swim in the feelings they usually avoid, to love without trying to dominate. It's a balancing act, like fire dancing over water without being extinguished. One of the most poetic aspects of their connection is that their love often exists between words. It's in glances held too long, in subtle gestures, the way Aries remembers a passing comment Pisces made weeks ago and acts on it, or the way Pisces instinctively senses when Aries is overextended and wraps them in comfort without needing to ask. They communicate in energy, in rhythm. When aligned, their relationship feels like a living poem, one line structured, the next spontaneous, but together, something beautiful. But even in its best form, this relationship requires emotional maturity. Aries Snake must confront their fear of emotional vulnerability, their tendency to retreat into logic when love gets messy. They must learn that not every feeling needs to be solved, some just need to be felt. Pisces Horse must resist the urge to escape when things feel too real or too intense. They must learn that consistency is not confinement, that showing up, even in discomfort, is a radical act of love. There's also a spiritual layer to their bond. Aries Snake often dismisses intuition in favor of strategy, but being with Pisces Horse exposes them to the unseen, the emotional undercurrents, the synchronicities, the dreamlike beauty of life. Pisces, meanwhile, finds in Aries a kind of earthly anchor. The snake doesn't just listen to their ideas, they help build them. They take dreams and give them legs. Together, they move from fantasy to form, and that's nothing short of alchemy. In the end, this love isn't about perfection. It's about transformation. Aries Snake and Pisces Horse will never be the couple that just works. But if they're willing to do the work, to meet each other where the fire meets the mist, they can co-create a love that is rare, sacred, and utterly unforgettable. Because sometimes, the most unlikely matches are the ones that leave the deepest mark on your soul. Marriage, fireproofing the union. Marriage between an Aries Snake and a Pisces Horse isn't the kind of story that writes itself. It's not a whirlwind romance that effortlessly evolves into a happily ever after. This union demands attention, presence, and a level of self-awareness that goes far beyond fairy tale simplicity. What makes it powerful is not how easy it is, but how intentional it becomes. It's the kind of marriage that thrives not by accident, but by fierce commitment, emotional generosity, and learning how to coexist when the elements of fire and water would otherwise cancel each other out. The Aries Snake enters the marriage with a clear plan. They've likely visualized their ideal future well before the vows are exchanged. Their energy is forward-moving, goal-oriented, and practical, often anchored by a strong desire to build something lasting: a home, a family, a financial foundation. They don't just want romance, they want results. The snake's presence adds an extra layer of calculation and strategic patience. They approach marriage like an investment, not coldly, but seriously, believing that anything of value requires focus and effort. Once committed, they are fiercely loyal and intensely protective of what they've built. The Pisces Horse, in contrast, arrives at the altar with emotions swirling like ocean currents. They bring an entirely different toolkit, one that's less about structure and more about sensation. Their idea of a successful marriage isn't about timelines or milestones. It's about emotional connection, shared moments, spiritual alignment. They offer softness, creativity, and deep emotional attunement. To Pisces Horse, love is a living, breathing energy, not a plan to execute, but a space to grow inside. They infuse the relationship with depth and meaning, reminding the snake that life isn't only about achieving, it's about experiencing. Together, they bring balance, at least in theory. The Aries Snake can help ground the Pisces Horse when their emotions drift toward chaos, offering clarity and protection. The Pisces Horse, in turn, teaches the Aries Snake how to relax into the mystery of love, how to stop overthinking and simply feel. This balance, however, doesn't come naturally. It must be built deliberately, brick by emotional brick. One of the first challenges that arises in their marriage is control versus freedom. The snake, by nature, desires influence, not always overt dominance, but a strong need to know where things stand, to steer the ship. They can be possessive without realizing it, mistaking control for care. The Pisces horse, being a symbol of freedom and emotional wanderlust, resists any sense of being boxed in. They need space, not necessarily to roam physically, but to explore their inner world, their dreams, their art. When the snake tightens their grip, the horse pulls away, and this can lead to cycles of silent resentment and emotional distance. For the marriage to work, trust must become more than a vague promise, it must become a daily act. Aries Snake must learn that love isn't something you hold onto tightly to keep safe. Sometimes, it's something you gently hold space for. Meanwhile, Pisces Horse must understand that emotional consistency, showing up even when they don't feel like it, is what makes a marriage safe for both people. The balance between giving space and staying close becomes their lifelong dance. Conflict, when it comes, is rarely loud, it's often emotional and unspoken. The Aries Snake might retreat into silence or cold logic when they feel emotionally challenged. They may try to fix problems with action, not realizing that what Pisces really needs is not a solution but presence. The Pisces horse may shut down or drift away when overwhelmed, seeking solitude or distraction instead of engaging in tough conversations. The result? A growing emotional distance that neither fully understands but both deeply feel. And yet, when they choose to meet in the middle, something truly beautiful emerges. Aries Snake discovers that surrender is not weakness, but the bravest kind of strength. Pisces Horse learns that grounding their emotions doesn't betray their spirit, it frees it. Their marriage becomes a paradox that somehow works, passionate yet peaceful, unpredictable yet safe, intense yet gentle. Over time, they begin to borrow from each other. The snake may surprise themselves by becoming more emotionally expressive, even poetic. The horse may find they crave a little more routine, a little more structure, because it gives them the safety to be vulnerable. They don't change who they are, they evolve into who they're meant to be, together. Their home reflects this balance. Aries Snake ensures it's secure, well-resourced, protected from the chaos of the world. Pisces Horse brings in color, scent, music, softness, they turn it into a sanctuary. A place where the world slows down. A place where both can just breathe. One provides the walls, the other paints the inside. This marriage also has the potential for tremendous spiritual growth. Pisces Horse challenges the snake to live in the heart instead of the mind. To open to intuition, faith, and love without guarantees. Aries Snake, in return, teaches Pisces the beauty of action-based love, that loyalty, effort, and commitment are sacred in their own right. Together, they merge the mystical and the practical into a shared life that is both visionary and rooted. But they must remain vigilant. The very traits that attract them to each other can also become triggers. The snake's need for control can turn into silent manipulation if left unchecked. The horse's emotional sensitivity can morph into escapism or passive aggression. Awareness and communication are not optional, they're essential. One of their most powerful tools is ritual. Whether it's weekly check-ins, shared creative projects, or moments of stillness at the end of each day, rituals help ground their bond. For Aries Snake, rituals offer predictability. For Pisces Horse, they offer presence. These small, intentional acts become their emotional glue, silent reminders that love is not just a feeling, but a series of choices made over and over again. In the long run, this marriage is not for the faint of heart. But for those who choose it, it becomes a mirror, reflecting not only love but the unspoken fears and needs both partners must confront. It's not about becoming the perfect couple. It's about becoming the most honest versions of themselves, with each other, through each other. Because when a fire-born strategist learns to love a water-soaked dreamer without trying to change them, and when that dreamer chooses to stay anchored in a world that sometimes feels too sharp, they don't just survive marriage. They elevate it into an art form, a sacred container for growth, passion, healing, and devotion. And isn't that what makes love worth it? Sex, a dance of intensity and sensitivity. When Aries Snake and Pisces Horse enter the realm of physical intimacy, it's not just two bodies meeting, it's two entirely different erotic philosophies clashing, swirling, and, when timed right, harmonizing. The bedroom becomes both battlefield and ballroom, a place where dominance meets surrender, fire meets mist, and physical desire intertwines with emotional depth. Their connection, though rooted in chemistry, becomes a journey into something deeper. The push and pull of control, vulnerability, fantasy, and the sacred. Aries Snake brings an unmistakable intensity to the act of love. Their sensuality is not just reactive, it's strategic, intentional, and deeply psychological. For them, sex is about mastery, about understanding every nuance of their partner's body, every sound, every subtle shift. They are often generous lovers, but not in a soft, dreamy way, in a precise, calculated one. Their approach is like choreography, elegant but planned. Every glance is deliberate, every touch carries weight. They aim to possess through passion, to create a moment so consuming that it leaves an imprint long after the encounter ends. Pisces Horse, on the other hand, moves through sex like a tide, emotional, unpredictable, and deeply connected to inner moods. They don't just crave physical closeness, they seek emotional union. For them, sex is less about control and more about connection. The act itself is a kind of language, the only one sometimes capable of expressing feelings too vast or complex for words. When they make love, they're offering not just their body, but their soul. It's poetic, it's messy, it's powerful in its own elusive way. When these energies meet, the result can be otherworldly. The snake's grounded intensity becomes a container for the horse's emotional flow. The horse's creativity and sensitivity awaken parts of the snake's sensual nature they didn't even know existed. At their best, they become mirrors, showing each other how physical intimacy can be both a release and a ritual. The Aries Snake teaches the Pisces Horse that sex can be grounded and sacred at the same time. The Pisces Horse reminds the Aries Snake that surrender is not submission, but a form of emotional bravery. However, this beautiful union is fragile, and susceptible to misalignment if emotional safety isn't prioritized. If Aries Snake leans too heavily into dominance without emotional availability, Pisces Horse may begin to feel used, disconnected, or unseen. For Pisces, trust is everything. If they sense that sex has become more about power than presence, they withdraw. Sometimes silently, sometimes dramatically. Emotionally, they float away, and the snake, who thrives on direct engagement, may not even realize they've lost their partner until the connection has fully cooled. Likewise, if Pisces Horse becomes too elusive, caught in their own fantasies, unable to verbalize desires or hesitations, the Aries Snake may feel rejected or frustrated. They value honesty, clarity, and direction, even in bed. While they enjoy mystery during the chase, they crave certainty once vulnerability is involved. If the horse's emotional tides become too unpredictable, the snake may shut down emotionally, interpreting that ambiguity as emotional immaturity or even manipulation. This sexual connection, like their emotional one, requires deep communication to flourish. They must go beyond body language. The Pisces Horse needs to articulate their feelings, needs, and boundaries, even when it feels scary. The Aries Snake needs to slow down enough to listen, truly listen, without immediately trying to fix, manage, or dominate. This intimacy must be an evolving dialogue, not a one-time performance. Another dynamic in their bedroom life is the question of fantasy versus function. Pisces Horse lives in the realm of imagination. Their desires are often wrapped in storylines, metaphors, archetypes. They want to feel transported. The Aries Snake, though passionate, is often more focused on execution and results. They want to deliver pleasure, not necessarily narrate it. This contrast can lead to either beautiful collaborative exploration or frustrating disconnect. To bridge this, the snake must occasionally step into the world of the fantastical, allow for spontaneity, role-play, improvisation, emotional unpredictability. The horse, in return, must stay present, understand that not every intimate moment needs to feel like a symphony. Sometimes, grounded, unembellished presence is more powerful than fantasy. A key to long-term sexual compatibility is their willingness to explore new territories together. The snake's strength lies in precision, repetition, and mastery. The horse thrives in novelty, emotional spontaneity, and deep connection. To sustain the flame, they need to create shared rituals, moments that evolve with time but remain grounded in mutual understanding. Whether it's taking time to talk about desires, establishing emotional check-ins, or creating sacred space for intimacy, these acts form the framework for lasting erotic harmony. Sex, in this pairing, also becomes a healing force when approached with maturity. The Aries snake may discover emotional dimensions of themselves through physical touch, letting down their guarded walls in the safety of Pisces' emotional ocean. The Pisces horse, when held gently but firmly by the snake's steady presence, may feel truly seen for the first time. It's in these moments, raw, unscripted, unplanned, that their physical connection transcends the act and becomes soul-affirming. But it is not without risk. When unresolved emotional issues seep into their sex life, it can become the battleground for silent wars. The snake may withhold affection as punishment. The horse may use distance as protection. When the physical becomes entangled with power plays, misunderstanding, or emotional avoidance, the connection suffers, not because the chemistry fades, but because the trust beneath it fractures. In times of disconnection, what saves them is not more passion, but intimacy rooted in truth. Eye contact, vulnerability, reaching for each other, even when it's awkward, sharing desires, admitting fears, making room for silence without shame. These are the acts that rebuild not just a sex life, but a sacred bond. At its highest potential, the sexual relationship between Aries snake and Pisces horse is like a mythic tale, primal yet poetic, ferocious yet tender. It defies logic and speaks in the language of the body and soul. But it only remains powerful if both partners are willing to evolve, not just sexually, but emotionally and spiritually. Because for this pairing, sex isn't just about satisfaction. It's about transformation. And when fire dances with water, not to consume, but to understand, the heat they create can light up the darkest corners of themselves. Friendship, can fire and water be best friends? Absolutely, if they learn to respect each other's tempo. This isn't a friendship built on shared hobbies or surface-level similarities. It's a connection rooted in contrast, the kind that can either create deep mutual growth or cause quiet emotional rifts if not nurtured with care. Aries snake and Pisces horse approach friendship like they do life, from opposite ends of the spectrum. One seeks control, the other seeks flow. One pushes forward, the other drifts. And yet, in that very tension lies the possibility of a truly unforgettable bond, one that evolves over time into a sanctuary of balance, loyalty, and perspective neither would find alone. The Aries snake is a unique kind of friend, not the loudest, not the most emotionally demonstrative, but absolutely dependable. They're the strategist in the friendship dynamic, always analyzing, always observing, always silently working behind the scenes to help you win. When you succeed, they may not shout it from the rooftops, but they'll be the first one to text you at midnight with a single, powerful word, "Knew it." Their support is quiet but unshakable. They give solid advice, challenge you to do better, and, once they've decided you're worthy of their trust, defend you with the kind of loyalty that doesn't need public applause. Pisces horse, on the other hand, is ethereal in their presence. They're the one who remembers how your voice cracked during a hard moment, who senses when something's wrong even before you say it, who sends you songs at 2 a.m. because it just felt like you. Their friendship is emotional, intuitive, and deeply compassionate. They don't just listen, they absorb. Being friends with a Pisces horse feels like having someone who holds a spiritual mirror up to you, reflecting back all the parts of yourself you didn't know needed love. They show up in unexpected ways, always dancing between presence and absence, emotion and expression, chaos and care. When Aries snake and Pisces horse come together as friends, their natural gifts can complement each other in extraordinary ways. The snake provides the ground, the root system of the friendship. They offer clarity, structure, protection. The horse brings in the wind, the dreamscapes, the empathy, the emotional perspective. Together, they create a friendship that has both height and depth. Aries reminds Pisces that dreams require action. Pisces reminds Aries that ambition without soul is empty. It's a yin-yang dynamic, but only when both are willing to grow outside of their comfort zones. The challenge lies in their expectations. Aries Snake values consistency, directness, and follow-through. They tend to judge others even unconsciously based on reliability and mental strength. If a friend cancels plans last minute, forgets an important date, or seems indecisive, the snake's patience wears thin. And this is exactly where Pisces Horse can stumble. They live in waves, not schedules. They forget appointments but remember how you smelled when you were sad. They may vanish for a few days, not because they don't care, but because they're overwhelmed by their own emotional landscape. To Aries, this can feel careless or flaky. To Pisces, it's just being human. Likewise, Pisces Horse may begin to feel emotionally stifled by the snake's structured nature. Aries Snake doesn't indulge every emotional whim. They believe in discipline, in control, in pushing through. When Pisces shares something tender, only to be met with advice instead of empathy, it can feel like a shut door. The horse might see the snake as cold or emotionally distant, even when the snake believes they're simply being helpful. Pisces needs to feel emotionally safe to thrive in friendship, and if they feel judged or analyzed too often, they may begin to retreat into themselves. However, this friendship also has incredible potential when both partners are aware of, and open to, their differences. Aries Snake must practice patience, realizing that emotional fluidity isn't a flaw. Pisces Horse isn't flaky, they're sensitive. They require more room to process life. Giving them that room without resentment builds trust. In turn, Pisces Horse must understand that friendship is not just about feelings, but about presence and action. Remembering to check in, to keep promises, to show up consistently, these things mean the world to Aries Snake, and failing to do so weakens the trust bond the snake so carefully builds. What makes this friendship truly special is how it can transform both individuals. Aries Snake may begin to soften emotionally, learning that not every moment needs to be productive, that sometimes a conversation can just be, without needing a conclusion. They learn to breathe, to feel, to express. Pisces Horse, in contrast, gains grounding. They become more focused, more organized, more capable of navigating the real world without losing their magic. The snake teaches them that dreams can have structure, and the horse teaches the snake that structure can hold dreams. Shared experiences become deeply meaningful between them. A walk through the city isn't just exercise, it becomes a space where ideas unfold, where emotions are named, where plans are quietly formed and intuitively felt. They may have wildly different styles of communication, but when they find their rhythm, it becomes symphonic. They speak in layers, Aries in logic and action, Pisces in metaphor and feeling, but somehow, the conversation works. They might also bond over creative or intellectual projects, blending Aries' ability to execute with Pisces' visionary thinking. Pisces has ideas the world hasn't seen yet. Aries knows how to make them real. Whether it's launching a small side hustle, starting a podcast, or simply planning a weekend trip with artistic flair, their partnership can be surprisingly productive when grounded in mutual respect. It's worth noting that forgiveness plays a central role in this friendship. Pisces Horse may forget, miscommunicate, or disappear during emotional lows. Aries Snake may become rigid, unyielding, or harsh during stressful times. But if both can see the intention behind the missteps, if they choose to believe in each other's hearts rather than react to each other's habits, the bond only deepens. They don't need to be perfect friends. They just need to keep showing up with honesty and care. Ultimately, friendship between an Aries Snake and a Pisces Horse is not defined by ease, but by evolution. It's a friendship that refines both souls. It stretches their emotional intelligence, their patience, their capacity to love without trying to reshape the other. It's the kind of friendship where growth happens in quiet, almost imperceptible ways, but looking back after years, they'll both realize they are better, softer, wiser people because of it. And that's the kind of best friendship that doesn't just survive time, it transcends it. Business, vision versus vibes. Would you trust an Aries Snake and a Pisces Horse to run a business together? On paper, it looks like a strange combination. One is laser-focused, decisive, and relentless in their pursuit of results. The other is fluid, emotionally driven, and guided more by instinct than spreadsheets. But here's the twist. With clarity, communication, and mutual respect, this pairing doesn't just work. It thrives. Like combining precision-engineered technology with soulful branding, their approach to business becomes a fusion of head and heart, structure and spirit, vision and vibes. The Aries Snake enters the business world like a general walking into battle. They are built for strategy, long-term planning, and cold, hard execution. Their mind works in hierarchies, flowcharts, efficiency models. They see the destination clearly and map out the most efficient and competitive route to get there. This isn't someone who gets bogged down in indecision or daydreaming. They act fast, think ahead, and demand excellence. In business, they are the closer, the power behind the pitch, and the steady engine that keeps pushing forward, even when others burn out. Pisces Horse, meanwhile, brings something entirely different to the table, something you can't learn in a boardroom. They are the empath, the intuitive marketer, the storyteller, and the creative genius whose ideas seem to emerge from another realm. While Aries Snake analyzes the metrics, Pisces Horse walks into a room and instantly senses the emotional climate. They understand how the brand feels, how it's perceived, what it means. Their vibe is their superpower, and that includes a nearly psychic read on trends, customer desires, and shifting emotional landscapes. In short, Pisces knows how to connect. Together, they can form an unstoppable team, but only if they understand and respect their differences. Problems arise when they blur their roles. If the Pisces Horse is expected to lead meetings with strict bullet point agendas, they'll feel suffocated. If the Aries Snake finds the Pisces wandering off into another visionary brainstorm instead of completing a task list, frustration sets in fast. For this dynamic to work, the snake must own the systems, while the horse must own the soul. The beauty of this partnership lies in how naturally their talents fill each other's gaps. Aries Snake might overlook emotional nuance, PR sensitivity, or the value of slow-burning relationships. Pisces Horse fills in that space with empathy, diplomacy, and a storyteller's finesse. On the flip side, Pisces might get lost in possibility paralysis, unsure which dream to follow or how to make it real. Aries steps in with clarity and drive, turning ideas into milestones and vision boards into launch plans. That said, power struggles can arise if egos aren't checked at the door. The snake, confident and disciplined, may feel the need to oversee everything. This can manifest as micromanagement, which is poison to a free-spirited Pisces Horse. Nothing kills their creativity faster than being boxed in or constantly second-guessed. The horse must be trusted to run with an idea, even if their process looks chaotic. Likewise, Pisces must respect the snake's need for order and results. They can't treat deadlines as flexible or ignore structure just because they're not feeling it today. Business demands follow through, and that's where Pisces must step up. Clear boundaries and delegation are not just helpful in this pairing, they're non-negotiable. Every strength one brings must be acknowledged as a strength, not a threat. Aries Snake handles negotiations, finance, logistics, and timelines. Pisces Horse leads in branding, customer experience, content, and emotional resonance. If they stay in their lanes while collaborating openly, they'll find they're not stepping on each other's toes, they're lifting each other's work to new heights. The contrast in their work styles can also lead to better decision-making. Aries may charge ahead without checking the emotional temperature. Pisces can slow them down to say, "How will this feel to the customer?" Pisces may get lost in conceptual development. Aries snaps them back to, "What's the ROI?" When handled maturely, this dynamic becomes a built-in system of checks and balances, preventing short-sighted mistakes or emotionally reactive decisions. One of their greatest business advantages is their combined appeal to both logic-driven and emotion-driven audiences. Aries Snake builds the framework that investors and stakeholders trust. Pisces Horse crafts the message and experience that customers fall in love with. It's rare to find a partnership that speaks both languages, but this one does fluently. Still, they'll need to create a communication system that works for both personalities. Aries values directness, data, and bullet points. Pisces prefers nuance, metaphor, and emotional context. This can be maddening if not addressed. Regular meetings with clear agendas but enough space for brainstorming can serve them well. Aries gets the structure they need. Pisces gets a safe space to ideate. It's not about changing each other's style, it's about honoring both. Stress is another area where their differences are pronounced. Under pressure, Aries Snake doubles down on control. They move faster, talk less, and expect others to keep up. Pisces Horse under stress may become emotionally flooded, withdrawn, or confused. Their instinct is to feel through it, not push through. If Aries misreads this as weakness or disengagement, they may become critical or even cold. But if they understand that Pisces is processing, not procrastinating, they can offer support rather than pressure. And Pisces, in turn, must learn to clearly communicate when they need time or help instead of quietly disappearing. When this team is in sync, it's more than just business. It becomes a movement, a brand with both vision and soul. Aries Snake ensures things scale. Pisces Horse ensures they stay meaningful. It's a rare alchemy, emotional intelligence meeting practical ambition. Pisces prevents the business from becoming soulless. Aries prevents it from floating off into unreality. As leaders, they also model very different but complementary kinds of power. Aries Snake leads by strength, action, and results. Pisces Horse leads by presence, empathy, and connection. Together, they can attract and retain a team that feels both protected and inspired, something few duos can pull off. But they must return often to the core agreement. You don't have to be the same to succeed together. You just have to value what the other brings. If they do this, not only can they run a business, they can build a legacy. Because when vision is powered by vibes, and vibes are backed by vision, success stops being a target, and becomes an inevitable outcome. Dark sides, the storm beneath the surface. Now let's talk shadows, the part of any relationship that lurks behind the charm, the compatibility, the chemistry. With Aries Snake and Pisces Horse, the shadow isn't a minor glitch in the system. It's a slow-burning, silent unraveling that, if left unaddressed, can turn a once promising connection into a minefield of mistrust, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Their differences, so magical in times of harmony, can become emotional weapons when fear, insecurity, and ego take over. And the danger isn't necessarily explosive conflict. It's the quiet corrosion of intimacy, day by day, until there's nothing left but silence between two people who used to understand each other without speaking. The Aries Snake, in their dark mode, becomes an architect of emotional control. At their worst, they withdraw not to protect themselves, but to punish. The same mind that creates strategic pathways to success can become icy and manipulative in personal relationships. Instead of connection, they seek dominance. Instead of vulnerability, they erect a wall made of charm, cold logic, and carefully chosen silence. They don't lash out in obvious ways. They tighten their grip with subtlety, withholding affection, reframing the truth, using past confessions against their partner in moments of quiet cruelty. They believe that if they can control the environment, they can prevent pain, but in doing so, they cause it. Pisces Horse, when emotionally off balance, becomes a shadow of their radiant self. Their gift for emotional depth becomes a trap. They fall into cycles of self-pity, passive withdrawal, and denial. Responsibilities feel like chains. The weight of expectations, even gentle ones, can trigger a need to flee. They escape into fantasy, avoidance, or emotional numbness. They don't always articulate their dissatisfaction, but it seeps out in unreliability, vagueness, and an inability to stay present. Rather than confronting issues directly, they may ghost the conflict, hoping it'll resolve itself, all while harboring internal resentment that grows with each unspoken feeling. When these darker tendencies begin to surface in the relationship, they form a toxic loop that feeds on itself. Aries Snake senses the horse slipping away and responds by doubling down, becoming more controlling, more critical, more emotionally withholding. They might not even realize they're doing it, it feels like self-protection to them. Pisces Horse, feeling suffocated by that grip, responds in the only way they know how. They gallop further away, emotionally, energetically, and sometimes physically. The snake interprets that as betrayal. The horse sees the snake's coldness as confirmation of their worst fear, that they were never truly safe in the first place. The result? A slow emotional erosion, not a dramatic breakup or a thunderous argument, but an endless series of emotional micro-injuries that go unspoken and unhealed. They stop talking about the important things. They stop making eye contact during vulnerable moments. Conversations become functional, not connective. Laughter fades. Intimacy becomes a performance or disappears entirely. They don't break up, they drift apart while technically still together, living in the shell of what was once a sacred connection. One of the most dangerous aspects of their dark dynamic is how convincing the facade can be. Aries Snake is excellent at maintaining appearances. They may keep the relationship looking functional from the outside, all while emotionally detaching behind the scenes. Pisces Horse, too, can pretend things are fine, telling themselves that their partner is just going through something, and that it'll pass. They convince themselves to stay silent, to wait, to accommodate. They might even start believing they're the problem, internalizing the emotional distance as personal failure. This silent suffering only deepens the cycle. Another risk in the shadow dynamic is emotional gaslighting, sometimes intentional, often not. Aries Snake, needing to maintain control, may subtly twist facts to their favor, invalidate the horse's feelings, or suggest that emotional needs are overreactions. They don't always mean harm, it's just that logic feels safer than emotional chaos. Pisces Horse, in turn, may struggle to defend their own boundaries or sense of reality. They feel something is wrong, but when they try to express it, they're met with cool rationality that leaves them feeling unseen and confused. Over time, this creates a power imbalance where Pisces feels emotionally diminished, and Aries feels unjustly burdened. In some cases, the dark dynamic can turn self-destructive. The snake, feeling they've lost control of the relationship, may emotionally shut down or seek outside validation. The horse, overwhelmed by emotional rejection, may spiral into self-doubt, impulsive behavior, or even sabotage the relationship just to feel a sense of control again. These aren't conscious choices, they're survival responses. But they can devastate the bond if left unchecked. So, how do they break the cycle? The answer is brutal in its simplicity: awareness. They must name their shadows, not just to each other, but to themselves. The snake must recognize that control is not love, and silence is not strength. Vulnerability, not strategy, is the bridge to deeper connection. The horse must accept that escape doesn't equal freedom. Staying, showing up, and expressing their emotions, even when it's messy, is the true act of self-love and partnership. They also need emotional accountability. The snake must be willing to soften, to ask, "How have I made you feel?" and actually listen to the answer without defensiveness. The horse must be willing to say, "This hurt me," without disappearing when the conversation gets uncomfortable. Emotional fluency doesn't come naturally to either of them. It must be learned, practiced, and committed to like any other life skill. If they can do that, if they can look into the storm rather than avoid it, something powerful happens. They begin to transmute the shadow into strength. The same snake who once used charm to manipulate now uses it to soothe. The same horse who once ran away now stands firm, trusting their voice. Together, they learn that true connection requires risk. The risk of being seen, of not being in control, of being vulnerable, and still being loved. But if they don't face it, if they continue in silence, avoidance, control, and escape, the relationship will not explode. It will fade, slowly, quietly, the way shadows grow at dusk, unnoticed until it's already night. And that's the real tragedy of their unbalanced bond. Not that they hurt each other intentionally, but that they forget how to reach each other at all. Life goals, different roads, same destination? At first glance, Aries Snake and Pisces Horse look like two travelers headed in opposite directions, one marching uphill toward the summit of legacy and success, the other wandering barefoot through a sunlit meadow, chasing butterflies of inspiration. The Aries Snake lives in the world of goals, trophies, and measurable triumphs. They climb because they must. Life is a ladder, and every rung is a symbol of progress, of effort justified. Meanwhile, the Pisces Horse floats through life with an open heart and an artist's soul. They seek not to conquer, but to understand, to feel, to connect. Their path winds and drifts, not from laziness, but because their compass is made of emotion, intuition, and meaning. On paper, their life goals appear incompatible, but are they truly destined to diverge? Or is there a deeper truth beneath the surface, a possibility that different roads can still lead to the same horizon? For the Aries Snake, ambition is not optional, it's oxygen. They crave personal mastery and often define success in terms that can be quantified: financial freedom, industry respect, power, security. They are driven by legacy, not just living well, but leaving behind something that outlasts them. Their goals are meticulously crafted, and their sense of self-worth is often intertwined with achievement. Time is currency, and they spend it wisely, optimizing, strategizing, and pushing themselves further with every sunrise. This isn't someone who drifts. They drive, and they expect those around them to either keep up or step aside. Pisces Horse, on the other hand, moves to the rhythm of their inner world. They are seekers, not strivers. Their goals are felt rather than planned, a desire to live a life that's emotionally rich, creatively expressed, and spiritually aligned. Success, to them, isn't a title or a dollar sign. It's waking up inspired. It's being able to sit in silence and feel whole. It's finding someone who understands the way their heart speaks and building a life that feels like a poem. Where Aries Snake wants to build a kingdom, Pisces Horse wants to build a sanctuary. This fundamental difference in goal setting and life orientation can be a major challenge in their relationship. Aries Snake might view Pisces as unfocused or unmotivated. They may ask, "What are we building?" and grow impatient when the answer is something abstract like, "A life that feels right." Pisces Horse, conversely, may see the snake as overly rigid or materialistic. They might wonder, "What are we feeling?" and feel emotionally starved when the relationship becomes all about performance, timelines, or the next big win. However, this contrast is not a dead end, it's an invitation. An invitation to redefine success together. Because if they can stop trying to convert each other and instead start complementing each other, magic happens. Aries can show Pisces how to bring dreams into form, how to ground their creative visions in action, and how to protect their peace with boundaries, structure, and resilience. Pisces can show Aries that a life lived too tightly around outcomes is a life half felt. That joy, connection, and emotional fulfillment are not luxuries, they are necessities. Together, they create a balance of ambition and alignment. To get there, they need to begin with deep emotional transparency. Aries Snake must be willing to admit what they fear: failure, stagnation, being unremarkable. Pisces Horse must admit that they sometimes feel lost, overwhelmed, or unsure how to bring their inner world into the outer one. These confessions can't be seen as weaknesses, but as offerings, bridges across their very different internal landscapes. They also need to create shared rituals around planning. For Aries Snake, this could mean setting quarterly goals, tracking financial growth, or building a career map. For Pisces Horse, this might look like vision boarding, journaling intentions, or creating emotional checkpoints to ensure they're still feeling fulfilled. By honoring both logic and feeling, structure and flow, they can begin designing a future that holds space for both their values. Importantly, they must also acknowledge that pace will always be a point of tension. Aries Snake moves fast. They make decisions quickly and efficiently. Pisces Horse takes longer, needing to feel their way into clarity. If the snake tries to drag the horse up the mountain, it will only create resistance. If the horse slows down the snake too much, frustration builds. The solution isn't compromise, it's calibration. Aries may need to slow their steps without sacrificing direction. Pisces may need to move more intentionally without feeling rushed. Mutual respect for timing becomes critical. Another lesson is in redefining value. Aries Snake tends to measure value by output, what was achieved, what was gained. Pisces Horse measures value by experience, how it felt, what it meant. These views aren't in conflict. In fact, they can enhance one another. Aries may discover that some of the most meaningful moments, a shared meal, a quiet morning, an unexpected laugh, have no price tag but infinite worth. Pisces may discover that turning their passion into a sustainable reality, whether through art, teaching, healing, or service, gives their life greater reach and stability. What can truly bond them long-term is the recognition that neither wants an ordinary life. Aries Snake wants excellence, legacy, distinction. Pisces Horse wants transcendence, beauty, soulful connection. They are both idealists in their own way, Aries through action, Pisces through meaning. If they align their goals not around what we're doing, but why we're doing it, they may discover they've been headed to the same place all along. A life of purpose, a life of impact, a life that feels real. They may even find ways to build together. A business infused with creativity and ethics. A home that reflects both security and imagination. A family culture rooted in both tradition and emotional openness. When they step into co-creation, and when both energies are honored equally, their shared life becomes a fusion of dream and discipline. Still, they must remain vigilant about resentment. If one partner consistently sacrifices their values or pace for the other's comfort, imbalance takes root. Aries Snake must be careful not to dismiss Pisces' emotional world as impractical or indulgent. Pisces Horse must be mindful not to label Aries drive as ego-driven or soulless. Both views are incomplete, both need the other to become whole. In the end, they're not doomed by their differences, they're defined by how they navigate them. If Aries Snake can learn to rest without guilt, and Pisces Horse can learn to act without fear, they unlock a rhythm that's uniquely theirs. A rhythm that climbs and flows, that pushes and pauses, that builds and breathes. Because different roads don't always mean different destinations. Sometimes, it just means one walks, and the other dances, but they're still holding hands. Final verdict: worth the risk? So, are Aries Snake and Pisces Horse truly compatible? The answer, after peeling back every layer of emotional complexity, personality contrast, and spiritual nuance, is yes, but it's not a fairy tale kind of yes. It's the kind of yes that comes with a deep breath, a pause, a willingness to grow. This is not a love born of ease or sameness. It's a love forged in friction, a connection that demands more of both partners than they've ever given before, and gives back something even more powerful in return. It's not perfect, but it just might be unforgettable. This relationship doesn't glide effortlessly into harmony. It's built slowly, often painfully, through challenge, contrast, and unexpected compromise. Aries Snake brings the edge, the fire, the clarity, the will. They know how to make things happen. They're built for action, for progress, for conquering life's mountains one goal at a time. But they can be sharp, guarded, inflexible when it comes to surrendering control. Pisces Horse brings the softness, the water, the depth, the emotional richness. They know how to feel, how to dream, how to make the invisible sacred. But they can be elusive, overwhelmed, resistant to the kind of structure the snake thrives on. That said, what makes them work, when they do work, is not that they change each other, but that they expand each other. If the Aries Snake learns to soften, something extraordinary happens. They begin to see that control is not connection, that strength can exist in stillness, that love doesn't have to be earned through performance, it can simply be. The Pisces Horse, in the presence of someone who believes in them with structure, not just sentiment, may find themselves anchored for the first time. Not tamed, but grounded. Not caged, but protected in a way that finally lets them feel safe enough to stay. This relationship has the power to transform both partners in essential, soul-deep ways. For Aries Snake, it's a lesson in surrender, in choosing intimacy over control, presence over perfection. For Pisces Horse, it's a lesson in commitment, in learning that staying, showing up, and facing the difficult moments doesn't mean sacrificing freedom. It means maturing into it. But the reality remains, this bond will not flourish on chemistry alone. It will ask for work, for humility, for uncomfortable truths, for self-awareness. The shadows in this match are real: power struggles, emotional misfires, unmet expectations, a fundamental difference in how each partner moves through the world. These are not small hurdles. They are lessons, and whether they break the relationship or make it stronger depends entirely on how willing both people are to look in the mirror and grow. To the outside world, Aries Snake and Pisces Horse might not look like a power couple. They might be hard to define, one driven by logic, the other by emotion. But what's rare about them is that, when they find their rhythm, they don't just coexist, they elevate. Together, they create a love that is both creative and strategic, poetic and practical, deeply emotional and courageously real. This is not the kind of connection that burns bright and dies out. Nor is it a slow, steady love that never asks questions. This is a love that moves, that bends and bruises and becomes something more resilient with time. A love that breaks each person open and then helps them rebuild, not into who they were, but into who they were always meant to be. And that's why the answer to whether they're compatible can't be a simple yes or no. It depends on whether they're willing to do the work, to sit through discomfort, to speak when it's easier to withdraw, to stay when it's easier to run, to love each other not just in their best moments, but through the mess, the uncertainty, the difference in pace, and the moments when understanding feels impossibly far away. But if they do, if Aries Snake can drop the armor, and Pisces Horse can plant their feet, then what they create together is something rare. A partnership that is both fiery and flowing, structured and spiritual, demanding and healing. A love that doesn't pretend to be perfect. A love that dares to be real. And sometimes, in a world full of illusions, real is not only enough, it's everything. Enjoyed this cosmic deep dive? Smash that like button, subscribe for more zodiac breakdowns, and check out the links in the description for bonus content and behind-the-scenes insights. And hey, whether you're a driven snake or a dreaming horse, remember this: the stars may guide you, but you write the story.